and welcome to our first episode of Dinner Date. We're so excited for you to join us for our dinner and our discussion. Tonight, what do we have, Chef Tyler?
We have some sloppy joes on some burnt onion roll buns, homemade with some ketchup, mustard, white vinegar, salt, onion, and ground beef. The pro chefs call this sloppy joes.
So, we chose a very messy meal for our first podcast, so you will definitely get to know our eating habits this way.
And so today we're going to talk about getting married and kind of what that entails and kind of the expectations and thoughts leading up to it.
Yeah, so should we just jump in?
I think so. I started with mine, my kind of notes with kind of like the planning and kind of what we expected going into it. And, I remember that first conversation we had once the pandemic started about getting married, and I asked you what your ideal budget was, which, that's one of the conversations that every couple getting married needs to have and whatnot. And you said $3,500, and I just laughed. And at that point, I think that's when I knew it was kind of, we're going to need to kind of manage expectations and manage kind of how we're gonna do this, because I'm all about saving money and being that kind of thrifty person with you, but I was kind of a realist in what some of the numbers were going to end up being. So one of the difficult challenges I thought was budgetary, and in the initial planning, like what our initial wants were, who we wanted to be there, and that quickly expanded from close family and friends to everyone.
Yeah, so we had originally thought maybe we'd have a supremely small wedding.
Like 30 people, close friends, family.
Yeah, we were meaning close friends and immediate family, but when you have a large family, that escalates quite quickly. So it was already going to be like 25, 30 people, and we thought, well, why not just invite everyone else?
So now it's like 100?
Which is still a small wedding.
And then from there it was kind of just like, well, how are we going to kind of make it work in our budget? So how are we going to DIY it and whatnot? And being college students, that it's difficult to have that financial challenge as well.
Yeah, and I think, am I right in saying that I'm a little bit more gung-ho for saving a buck wherever possible and doing anything we can ourselves than maybe you would have originally aspired to?
Yes. So I think there were definitely some challenges to kind of work through on expectations on how we're kind of using money and whatnot, and that's just stressful because money is stressful for a lot of people.
Do you think this wedding will meet the expectations and the hopes that you had for your wedding, your hopes and dreams, your little little girl dream of what your wedding would be like?
So I always wanted to have it outside. Even when I was growing up at my old house, I was like, I could just have a backyard wedding and we can just jump in the pool because we had a pool. I was like, that would be great. It would just be fun. I don't have a ton of friends, and my family is kind of small compared to yours. And I was just like, oh, the backyard wedding kind of sounds fun. So having this wedding, and we're having it in one of her family's fields, I think is definitely gonna kind of have that. And I think how we've kind of set it up, it's definitely gonna live up to what I expected, but I wasn't necessarily thinking about, oh, I need these flowers. I want this place setting. I was more like, if I can just have family and friends around and marry the person I love and want to marry, then that's going to be cool. And I'm not necessarily worried about if it has to be some extravagant kind of wedding or whatnot. Talk about what you were thinking kind of leading up through the planning phase and how you kind of manage your expectations.
Well, yeah, it's hard to manage your expectations. I have a taste for the elegant.
The finer things.
The finer things in life. Yes. But that's not really at all how I live my life. And certainly that was not the way I wanted to spend my money. So balancing how to have an elegant, tasteful wedding, inexpensively and in a less elegant setting in a field, which is going to be beautiful.
It's a gorgeous field, so.
But it's not, this
fancy ballroom or
extravagant place. So managing how to marry those two worlds.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And get a tasteful, because
there were many times that she just asked, "Are you sure? Can we just go to the courtroom and get eloped?" And I don't want that. I guess that was one thing that I definitely wanted was a wedding.
Yeah, and what I really didn't want was a tacky wedding, and what I still do not want is a tacky wedding. I have been fighting against tacky for my whole life. Not that my family's tacky at all, but I don't think it will be. I think it will be a good mix of elegant but approachable, accessible elegance. So, what are your expectations of the wedding week? What are your hopes? What are your...
Yeah. And I mean, I know we just talked a little bit about planning, but planning doesn't really end until the wedding. Mm-hmm. Even after the wedding, because you have to clean up all that stuff too. Mm-hmm. Especially because we're doing it a lot ourselves. So I know the planning doesn't stop, and that's going to cause some stress throughout the week.
See, I kind of think the week isn't going to be that stressful.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I mean, so much of our planning is already done. Part of me feels like when I look at our timeline for that week, I think, what are we going to do on some of these days? And I'm sure the time will fill up. But it doesn't seem like we have that much left to prep.
Well, I still think it's going to be... I think it's going to be busy. Mm-hmm. Because we still are making all the desserts. Mm-hmm. That's going to take a decent amount of time. Sure, that's probably a little bit of fun too. But I just think there's still so many things that we have to consider, especially weather-wise. That's just going to be a stressor in my mind.
I agree. I think the weather is the thing that I'm most concerned about. Because even if it does rain, I do think we have a decent rain plan. It just will cut down on how nice and beautiful and fun the wedding is. Yeah. And I yeah, I hope it hasn't been raining for that whole week and like the field is all muddy.
Yeah. But for me, it's kind of just like a waiting game that entire week, though. Especially returning back to Syracuse, and at least for me, and being there again. But it's so I'm going to be there like 8 days or something like that when we get back up. So it's just kind of like this waiting game, like you're waiting for Christmas morning, but you already know the present because you peeked at the presents already. Yes, I did that. Come on, who didn't?
I didn't.
Of course you didn't. But yeah, I think it's that waiting and that anticipation. I just want it to happen, and I think that's what we've already experienced. Is we just want it to happen already.
Yeah.
We just want it to be done, not necessarily just to get through it, because we're going to enjoy that day.
Yeah, and planning it for the most part hasn't been so extremely stressful. It's been fun.
But it's that anticipation and wanting it to be there, because we.
It feels like that's the barrier to the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, so the week before, I just think there's going to be stressors, and I think for me, I just want to kind of reminisce about kind of what our lives together looked like when we were in Syracuse, and how we met, and kind of this process that we went through in developing our relationship. And I think it's going to be very nostalgic. I mean, we've only been dating for a year and a half, but it's still just like crazy to think about all that's happened from November 2019.
Yeah, I think it's going to be weird because that's like the last time that we're going to be home for a really long time, probably. Yeah. And the last time that we'll see our families for, until, like, we don't know the next time that we'll see our families.
Yeah.
And so that's also going to make it a difficult week. I think maybe more so for me than for you, because that's, like, where I grew up and my home. But I think in some ways probably you'll experience some of that too, especially. Yeah,
it's going to be like the last time that a lot of my extended family are together. Like your family tends to have several kind of get-togethers or family functions. That's just not something that necessarily happened a lot, and this is kind of just like one of the places where a lot of my family is going to be. Not all, but...
yeah, and this will be the first time I'm meeting most of them.
Yeah. Like, you met my grandparents, but you haven't met any of my cousins, any of my aunts or uncles or whatever.
I think you've met almost all of mine, if not all.
Just about. Maybe not on the Warner side. Just a couple on the Warner side. But.
So, I am a little nervous that because of like that high emotion state of we're moving so far away, it's a wedding, which is emotional, it's a little stressful, I'm a little afraid that people are going to be a little tense and like some interpersonal conflict may occur.
Yeah.
Which I hope it doesn't, or it's easily resolved, but that is another like little fear in the back of my mind is nerves running thin or wearing thin. That's the phrase, wearing thin. And
yeah. What about you, though? What are you kind of expecting or looking forward to that week before? As I eat my second sandwich.
I'm looking forward to hanging out with people. Because I think it'll be really nice that whole week feels like it's just dedicated to spending time with.
Yeah, it's no work.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
we don't have.
Yeah, we won't. We won't be working our jobs.
Right.
And all we'll have to do is hang out with people and prep for the wedding, which I think will really only take like a few hours a day.
Right.
And so we'll have this extra time to spend with my family, with our bridal party and groom's party.
Yeah, wedding party.
Wedding party, that's what it's called. When they come up, with your family when they come up. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to, I know you said like you're a little worried about the baking. I'm looking forward to the baking because I think it will be like a really fun bonding thing to have, you know, like I'm just imagining having Joe and Sim and Lyd and my mom and your sister and your mom all like hanging out, baking cupcakes together, decorating cupcakes together, and that just like sounds like such a fun time. And I know there is one of the places that I think it might get a little stressful, just like interpersonally, to have all those people trying to bake cupcakes. But I also think that will be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to our rehearsal dinner too. I think that will be really nice.
I keep forgetting that's a thing.
Same.
But that's going to be like the one time where it's just that intimate kind of setting that we kind of were originally looking at having, and I think that you're right. That's going to be a good time to kind of just chill and kind of start really taking everything in.
Yeah, I think especially because at the actual wedding, I don't think we'll spend as much time with our parents and our siblings and our grandparents as we will, because there will be, you know, 5 times as many people vying for our attention. And so it will be really nice to just have that quality time to sit down and have dinner together and just and interact and have that last intimate moment together before we leave for a while.
What about the wedding? What's the one thing, if you had to choose one thing that you're looking forward to at the wedding?
I'm looking forward to sunset pictures, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. I really hope the sunset is as beautiful as it was the day we went and visited.
Yeah.
And that we have the timing right, because I'm looking forward to right after the ceremony just like having a few moments away from everything with you, with our photographer, and just, you know, taking some hopefully amazing shots that we can put on our blank walls, and that will be so special and so unique to like our wedding.
As I finish chewing.
Okay, I'll keep talking then. So that I think is the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. But I also the actual ceremony. I mean, it's going to be so short that, and hopefully also as the sun begins to set, that it will be beautiful and it will be meaningful, whether or not the sun is setting exactly when and how we want it to.
Yeah. I think, no, I definitely know. For me, I'm just looking forward to the vows. I think I'm going to cry, and then you're going to cry.
You're definitely going to cry. Are you going to cry when I walk down the aisle?
No, because I would have already seen you.
Are you still going to cry?
No. Wow. I'll cry at the vows. Give me a break.
Okay. Do you have your vows written?
In my head, I have some of them written.
Okay.
I have the basis for what I'm going to write in my head.
Okay.
And you know me. It's going to be great.
It's going to be cheesy.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be cheesy. But it's going to be cute, and you're gonna cry too. And if you don't cry,
are you gonna cry while you give me your vows, or will you cry when I give you my vows?
No, I'll cry giving my vows too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who gives their vows first? Is there like rules
The
for
man
that?
does.
The man does.
The traditionally.
Sexist.
But I mean,
Down with the patriarchy.
How traditional are we? You do it first. You do it first. What part of our engagement is traditional?
Fair enough.
Stay tuned for future episodes if you want to know what we're talking about. But let's be honest. If you're watching this, you probably already know what we're talking about. What are we talking about? Vows. Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, just the uniqueness of how we're setting it up with the dinner beforehand, I think is just going to be cool.
Yeah, I really hope that gives us a chance to interact with people a lot more than in a typical wedding where you really barely see the bride and groom.
Yeah, you talk to them when you walk through the line and be like, congrats.
Yeah. So I really hope that gives us an opportunity to really spend some quality time with people. I hope I actually meet your family and get to know them a little bit. And also because we've been together most of the time that we've been together has been during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to meet each other's friends and things like that either.
Right.
So this is a lot of new people for both of us, or people that we haven't personally seen in a long time either. So I'm really hoping that having dinner beforehand, making it a slightly more casual feel for dinner, will give us an opportunity to go seek people out more. And for people to come seek out us and come and chat with us.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of just my thoughts and kind of expectations and a little bit of what I'm looking for. What else do you have much more to say, or?
I don't really think so. I think it's going to be really beautiful. I just have like these pictures in my mind of what it's going to look like, which I know I shouldn't get too attached to because
Gotta take the mental pictures.
Yeah, gotta take the mental pictures. But not the mental pictures of what's in my head, the mental pictures of what's actually happening.
Right.
So I don't play so much of a comparison game between reality and imagination. But I really do think it's going to be beautiful. I really hope it's really nice weather. And I expect to have some amazing photos and memories out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's kind of just what our first we want to do for our first podcast, which is kind of discuss with each other kind of what our expectations and what our hopes are for the wedding. And we're going to do a after podcast as well, where it's going to be a lot of reflecting on
on the week of the wedding, on the wedding itself,
on everything,
on how we're feeling afterwards,
how our expectations kind of measured up to what happened,
if it was worth it.
Thanks. But I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us and kind of hearing our perspectives. And yeah, thank you for joining us for our first dinner date.